Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Bomb Show. Today is Thursday, October 12th, 2023, and we just witnessed a beautiful, wonderful occasion in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, where the draws for the forthcoming African Cup of Nations scheduled to hold in Cote d'Ivoire from January 12th through February 11th, January 13th through February 11, 2024. The draws were just held and we wanted to do a quick run, and I'm glad I was able to catch up with veteran sports journalist Fon. Fon, welcome. How's everything?
Well, it's okay. That's okay. Just a little tired because I had to rush Douala this early this morning. I came back this evening. Actually, when Cameroon's friendly match with Russia I was on the bus coming back to Yaoundé. And then when I came, I met the draw about to begin. So I'm a little tired, but that doesn't prevent me from saying who is capable of doing what tonight.
So I don't know. Let's start off with the game, the Cameroon versus Russia. I don't know whether I had time to watch it, but I was kind of surprised that in spite of the negative publicity or with Russia, Cameroon decided to, you know, go against every other person and choose to. And I watched the first half of the game, and coincidentally, Cameroon's iconic coach, the Russian, was the one who gave the kickoff of that game. But what's your assessment before we go to the groups? I think.
Well, Lambert and just I'm saying that when that match was being played, I was on the bus coming back to Yaoundé, and so I could only get certain comments being made by those who send them on social media. And what I got on social media was as if Cameroon was not as bad as people had expected or projected it would be. But that's what they saw. I didn't say it myself, so I didn't watch the match, so I can't quite say anything about it. But I'm not very surprised that Russia has to defeat Cameroon by 1 goal to nothing. It's always been something like this. Russia defeating Cameroon every now and then. And so until Cameroon can find that talisman that's going to be able to catch the Russian football supremacy, it's going to continue for a little longer.
So let's take off the suspense and get our viewers on. What is the draw? The draws just took place, and we have 24 teams divided into 6 groups. Where do the teams fall at this point?
Well, if I can look at my clipboard just next to my phone, it says that for those who did not watch the draws, it says that Group A, which is going to be based in Abidjan, is going to be featuring the Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Equatorial Guinea, and Guinea-Bissau. Group B, that's going to be based still in Abidjan, but this time at the Felix Houphouët-Boigny Stadium. Because the Group A will be at the Alassane Dramane Ouattara Stadium. And Group B, Egypt, Ghana, Cape Verde, Mozambique. And Group C, based in Yamoussoukro, would feature Senegal, Cameroon, Guinea, and Gambia. Group D, to be based in Bouaké, will feature Algeria, Burkina Faso, Mauritania, and Angola. Group E, to be based in Korogo, will feature Tunisia, Mali, South Africa, and Namibia. And Group F, to be based in San Pedro, will feature Morocco, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Zambia, and Tanzania. That is how the groups have been constituted tonight after a draw, described as a brilliant event tonight, and with the CAF president, Dr. Patrice Motsepe, expressing a lot of anticipation ahead of the competition. He had already rated Cameroon's AFCON to have been the best hosted, the best organized, and best in the history of the tournament. And then today he's saying that he hopes that this one coming up in the Ivory Coast is going to beat the Cameroon record. He didn't say that those were not the words. The word actually he said that he hopes that it will be the best ever. In other words, he's saying it's supposed to be an improvement of what Cameroon has done. But that's to be expected because, after all, what about human endeavors? Human endeavors are such that whenever I do something, the next time I come do the same thing, it should be an improvement of what they have done before. So looking at the groups as they are, it's always been this kind of stuff where each time you have to draw a major competition like the Africa Cup of Nations, they always ask you the question, which is a group of death? This time around, we don't have a group of death. What I've seen is rather the die being cast for matches of death. For example, when the Ivory Coast will play against Nigeria, with Ivory Coast as host, Egypt playing against Ghana in Group B, Senegal playing against Cameroon in Group C, Algeria playing against Burkina Faso in Group D, or Morocco and Democratic Republic of Congo in Group F. Those are matches you can describe as being matches of death in a way. But I would rather think that there is more of something of a group of vengeance. And that group is going to be Group C, based in Yamoussoukro. Why do I say group of vengeance? Cameroon and Senegal have an old grudge set with
Fon's connection again. Fon is coming to us from Yaoundé, and we know connectivity issues in Africa are always a problem. He has actually had to switch phones a couple of times. But again, we're doing an analysis and commentaries on the just held draws for the African Cup of Nations scheduled to take place. And Fon was giving us his analysis. I think, again, Fon should be back now. Yeah, sorry.
We're having this, you know, the meteorological dispensation this way over the recent past has been not been the best. So we're going to be having these guys coming in until we can fix it and make it better next time. And so what I'm saying is that it's the Group C for me that I call as a group of vengeance. You know what has always been happening between Cameroon and Senegal. And what is happening right now is that when you look at Senegal, Cameroon, Guinea, and the Gambia in one group, the immediate thing everyone wants to suggest is that Guinea and Gambia are going to be telling themselves that this thing is not for us, we are just onlookers, and only Senegal and Cameroon do have tangible arguments to suggest that could go to the next.
Yeah, again, we apologize for the hiccups. Internet connections in Cameroon are not the best, but Fon had just given us the initial analysis that with this draw, he doesn't see a group of death like we always have. And he was now giving us an analysis of Group C, where we have Cameroon, Senegal, Gambia, and Guinea. Yes, Fon, sorry about the connections.
Yeah. So I was saying that's a group of vengeance. You know what has always happened between Senegal and Cameroon? You beat me on Monday, I beat you on Tuesday. Beat me on Wednesday, I beat you on Thursday. This time around, Senegal are the defending champions. They came and won that trophy in Cameroon. And Cameroon did not take that lying down. So you walk all the way from far West Africa to come and collect the trophy from Cameroon. Well, I'm coming to the African Nations Cup to come and take back what I think was mine when you came to this match, this competition that was hosted by Cameroon. Now, so what do we look forward to? We look forward to a situation where between Senegal and Cameroon is going to be a hardly contested matter in that group. Now, remember that Senegal and the Gambia, they played to a 0-0 draw in their group games during the Africa Cup of Nations here. So Gambia left the tournament, went back home celebrating that we pulled the team that eventually won the competition to a draw. So we too could have equally won the tournament. So this time they're coming to play against the Senegal, not as pushovers anymore. So they're going to put in their very best. They're not going to be playing from the status of pushovers in a game of football. I don't think that's ever going to happen during this the upcoming tournament with these two teams in this group. And of course, Guinea lost to Cameroon in 20 when Cameroon hosted the tournament here. So it's a kind of situation where teams don't think that they have been doomed not to make gains of the opponent, or not to make capital of the situation when confronted by the opponent. So what is going to happen in Group C is that it's really going to be a group where no team actually will get into competition with any inferiority complex. If there could be a complex, I think that would be superiority complex, because there's a team there that is keeping the trophy. But there's also the other team that has won the trophy 5 times. And right now we're talking about a team, the Cameroon team, where a host a whole lot of players are definitely going to play in the African Nations Cup for the very last time. And this is the time for them to make the mark when they're leaving the tournament. So they will not want to let go the opportunity to make capital of the situation. Remember, Lambert, that the first time Cameroon won the Africa Cup of Nations was in the Ivory Coast. That was way back in 1984. They are coming back to that very venue 40 years afterwards. And they're suggesting that it could be just the moment for them to lift the trophy for the set time and maybe go just one trophy shy of Egypt. And so they imagine, and then the other considerations too, sometimes they say that Cameroonians or Cameroon and the Ivory Coast are in-laws, but for the fact that the better half of the president of the Cameroon Football Federation comes from that country. And so there are a lot of things that are at stake here, and a lot of pride to play for. So Cameroon is going to this tournament, first of all, to correct the wrongs when they hosted the tournament here in Yaoundé, and then to hope that history can repeat itself and they can win the trophy again 40 years afterwards. While Senegal are playing to defend the trophy, they want to retain the trophy. And so we expect that that group is going to be a hotly contested one. And so if you insist that one must call it something like group of death, which I would not want to do, I want to call it a group of vengeance. Well, I think that group stands out as the one where football is going to be fast-paced.
So let's switch over to Group A, because again you find that Cote d'Ivoire and Nigeria, the highest goal scorer throughout the competition was Nigerian talisman playing in Italy, who had 10 goals. And Nigeria, I think at this point, their greatest obstacle has always been the Ghanaians. Cote d'Ivoire, really, I don't see them. But the question I have for you, Fon, is when I looked at the draws, the way the draws were made, the first 5 teams were ranked according to FIFA. They took them according to FIFA rankings. They were in I think that was Pot A. That's how you had those first teams. And looking at those teams, so you had Cote d'Ivoire by virtue of the fact that they are the hosts. Then you came over, you had Egypt, Senegal, Algeria, Tunisia, and Morocco. So you see that there are only 2.
Yeah.
You only have Cote d'Ivoire and Senegal. Those are the only 2, call them West African countries. The rest of them are countries from, call them the Arab countries. So it seems as if football in Africa is really being ruled by those countries up north. And with the performance of Morocco, I am thinking that this may be the time for Morocco to take home the cup. I don't know what your analysis is based on that.
No, you made the pertinent observation there that football made in the Maghrebian zone of the African continent is calling the shots. That is to be expected. It depends on how the kinds of programs you have for your football, the kinds of logistics you have for the practice of football, the kinds of money you inject into the game of football, and the kind of mentality you have. That is what gives the North Africans the edge over the other part of the African continent. So when you look at those first 5 teams as per the FIFA rankings, it's not surprising that they appear the way they are. In fact, Ivory Coast is amongst those first 5 by dint of the fact that they're host country. So it's not really because of their performance. So because, by the way, if I had to look at the rank, the Ivory Coast based on what they have done so far in recent times, they would be anywhere to be found. Now, you're talking so much about those teams. When you get into a competition, the word is competition. We're going to go and compete. Now, if the mere fact that you're better ranked than the other team gives you already leeway victory, competitions will lose their raison d'etre. So after all, you are going there already knowing that this particular team, because it's better ranked than me, is going to prevail at the end of the day. They are going there with those arguments. Normal. Then when they get there and the thing begins, the real.
So again, you are on the Lambom Show. We are doing an analysis and commentaries on the just ended draws for the forthcoming African Cup of Nations competition scheduled to take place in Cote d'Ivoire, January 13th through February 11th, 2024. And we just looked at the different groups, the 6 groups. Group A is made up of Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, Equatorial Guinea, and Guinea-Bissau. Group B, Egypt, Ghana, Cape Verde, Mozambique. Group C, Senegal, Cameroon, Guinea, and the Gambia. Group D, Algeria, Burkina Faso, Mauritania, Angola. Group E, Tunisia, Mali, South Africa, and Namibia. And Group F, Morocco, DRC, Zambia, and Tanzania. So Fon is back.
Yes, there is something I want to call attention to as concerns Group F. Anyway, we start talking from Group A. Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Equatorial Guinea, and Guinea-Bissau. Looking at the situation right now, the facts on the ground, the Ivory Coast and Nigeria, they go through. It goes without saying. And when they come to Group B, Egypt, Ghana, Cape Verde, and Mozambique, Egypt and Ghana go through. There's no mistake there. Now, Senegal, Cameroon, Guinea, Gambia, I've just told you, I've just submitted to you why that particular group should be taken with a lot of caution. You can't easily write off those teams, Guinea and Gambia, because of what has happened before. And then the fact that Senegal, they are the defending champions, and that's a team that everybody wants to beat. Cameroon are coming in. In fact, just like for Senegal, they have stars that are fading, and they want to make history right now. They also have people who are coming up to, they want to clinch the trophy on the very first try. So you can't therefore imagine that or fairly accept that because Senegal are defending champions, Cameroon have won the trophy 5 times, we'll write off Guinea and Gambia. It's been noted that if we had to, because I've always done this before, that if we had to judge the performance of a team, plotting a graph of the performance against time, then Guinea and Gambia are 2 of those countries on the African continent that are experiencing a kind of a metamorphosis in their football. So you cannot easily write them off. That group, watch out for them. You might have the most entertaining football coming from Group C. Algeria, Burkina Faso, Mauritania, and Angola. Burkina Faso came close in 2013, we've been told. And Mauritania, if you look at the Total Energies African Champions League and the Total Energies African Confederations Cup, you realize that Mauritania has a team featuring in the group stage of the club's competition. Cameroon does not have. To tell you that what? Teams like Mauritania, Tanzania, and let me say Gambia and Guinea are teams that are beginning to make their names heard very, very loudly and clearly in the game of football on the African continent. So therefore, with a group of Algeria, Burkina Faso, Mauritania, and Angola, you might be so surprised to find that it is Algeria and Mauritania that are going through to the detriment of Burkina Faso and Angola. In Group E, you have Tunisia, Mali, South Africa, and Namibia. Now, that group could be described as a group of death. And this is what I mean. Sometimes when you talk about a group of death, the tendency for you to imagine that this is where the heavyweights come and compare their muscles. But also imagine that a group.
So again, Fon is having some hiccups with internet connections. I know this is a pain in the butt, but connectivity issues in Africa. We're doing an analysis of the groups, and Fon was telling us about Group E. He thinks that Group E may be the group of death with Tunisia, Mali, South Africa, and Namibia. Maybe the way the teams are lined up these days, you can never be so sure. Tunisia, Mali, South Africa, yeah, those teams are quite tough. Tunisia and Mali, and not to talk of South Africa, who will be coming back this time around for revenge. So Fon is back.
So I was saying that if you were to imagine that a group of death would also mean that group where the strength of the contestants spar, right? Okay, irrespective of the sheen of their plumage. Imagine that the group of death is where people have almost the same strength and they're vying for supremacy. That kind of gives a different dimension to the tussle. So that's how you could describe a group of death, not necessarily when the heavyweights are meeting. And that kind of a group could be Group C, Group E, where Tunisia, Mali, South Africa, and Namibia are locked in Korogo. They look at Group F. There is something interesting about Group F, Lambert. I know every other analyst would say the first team to qualify from there was Morocco. But I want to take you back to the history books. In 1990, Cameroon went to the World Cup finals, reached the quarter-final phase of the tournament. When they came to the next Africa Cup of Nations in 1992, that took place in Senegal, Cameroon left the tournament as the fourth team of the tournament. The same thing happened to Senegal. Senegal went to the World Cup in 2002. When they came back to the 2004 Africa Cup of Nations, they left the tournament far behind there. So to tell you that what, it is not because Morocco reached the semifinals of the World Cup that they will just have to stroll past the Democratic Republic of Congo, Zambia, and Tanzania and go to the next round of the tournament. I don't think so. I don't subscribe to that kind of argument. It could go that way, but I don't subscribe to it. One of the reasons is because when you come there, you have what they call the superiority complex. Secondly, those teams you are playing against are already aware that this is the World Cup bidder. So what do? We put in our very best. We'll come in to tackle them. Then there is Tanzania. Tanzania is featuring two teams, two clubs in the group stages of the African competition. So those kinds of indices should tell you that there are no more junior staff in African football. You allow the game to be played from start to finish before you draw the line between the victor and the victim.
So if you just looking at it, I mean, I know you have just gone through. Do you think any of the, call them first-tier teams, the ones that Cote d'Ivoire, Egypt, Senegal, Algeria, Tunisia, and Morocco, is there anyone that you think will not make it through the group stages?
Well, I think that the Ivory Coast, even though they are not well ranked, according to FIFA rank, the latest rankings, what is going to propel them on is a home setting advantage. The 12th man in the field, which is going to be the home crowd, that is going to play so much in their favor. I get that. That is Egypt. That's a good side. In African football, we go to the Cup of Nations. If Egypt doesn't go to the second round, it becomes news. So it's normal for them to go to the second round. Senegal are the cup holders. It is rare to learn that in an African tournament like this one, that defending champions begins the tournament stumbling and actually leaving the tournament at the end of the first round. Tunisia are saying that in Group E, although we spar the level of the potentials, we think that the balance is treated more in favor of Tunisia. So why not repeat what happened in 2000?
Yes, again, Fon was trying to give us an analysis of the top tier teams in Africa that are heading the 6 groups. Group A is headed by Cote d'Ivoire. Group B is by Egypt. Group C is Senegal. Group D, Algeria. Group E, Tunisia. And Group F. And the question was, is there any of these groups, is there any of them that is not going to leave, that's not going to qualify out of the group stages?
So what I'm saying, no, what I'm saying is, and I stand by it, that the 5 teams that you just cited, the Ivory Coast, Egypt, Senegal, Algeria, Tunisia, and Morocco, should normally qualify. But we are talking here about the game of football, and if we let go, if we take things for granted, you may also be obliged to start taking the other way of looking at things too for granted. But I'm saying, talking about Morocco, the team that stands out more than every other team, being the first team to reach the semi-finals of the World Cup of the African continent, if they don't allow confidence overdose to have a better, they will always make it. But if they allow it, confidence overdose to step in, then they'll have time to lick their wounds. So that's my those teams.
Let's go to the second tier. The second tier was made up in group B, and that group was made up of Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, Burkina Faso, Mali, and the DRC. Is there any one of those teams you see not going through? I can tell you Cameroon is not going to.
Of those 5 teams, it's just one of them that has not won the African Cup of Nations. That's Burkina Faso. The others have won the African Cup of Nations at least once each. So those are very, very serious teams. They have a very, what I can describe as a solid mathematical composite base. So it's really I don't think that any of those teams I don't think that any of those teams will lag behind without reaching the second round of the tournament. I don't think so. If it happens, it's going to be news. Nigeria have won the tournament twice. And when was the last time they won the tournament? It was under Big Boss Stephen Keshi. That was, I think, in 2013. A lot of time has come and gone, and they still want to emulate what they did in 2013. Ghana have won the trophy 4 times, but today, when they talk about the Ghanaian success story, people always say, in quotes, has been. And they don't want to be put on the shelf as have been. They want to tell you that we are current and we master the highs and lows and nitty-gritties of modern football. So Ghana have won the trophy 4 times.
Yes, Fon Echekiye coming to us from Yaoundé with a lot of connectivity issues. We're doing an analysis of the draws, and we're looking at the second-tier teams that just qualified. The second-tier teams, we're looking at Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, Burkina Faso, Mali, and the DRC. And Fon was giving us an analysis there of which of these teams may not go through to the second round.
And now we'll come to the case of Cameroon. Lambert, I don't know. Would he be taking a dime there to tell me that Choupo-Moting will want to play his likely last Africa Cup of Nations without winning a trophy? I don't think so. Do you think the man described as Abushu want to leave the beautiful game without giving Cameroon a trophy with him as a captain? I don't think so. So there's a lot for Cameroon to play for. Look at the president of the Cameroon Football Federation, Samuel Eto'o, who has been treading very, very difficult sands of late. He wants to show to the world that beyond what Fon Echekiye once said on the program, that his first 18 months are the best of all 18 months he has covered, first 18 months he covered, and went ahead to say that it couldn't have been the best overall, because we have to state that that statement was made considering the relative considerations. So therefore, allow that tautology. So therefore, we want to have a silver win in the name of the Africa Cup of Nations to say that I am one of the few presidents of Africa who once in office took less than 2 years to win Africa Cup of Nations. So there are all of those factors coming in and prohibiting anybody from imagining that Cameroon would leave that tournament early. Well, I think the Lions have always known that their level and what resembles the Cameroon level in the game of football is them reaching at least the semi-finals of the tournament. Burkina Faso came close in 2013. It's been quite a while, and I guess that they would want to come back to what they did in 2013, improve on that, and then proceed. Mali have won that tournament. Mali won the tournament. No, they didn't want to. They reached the finals in 1972, and the Democratic Republic of Congo too had made their name in the good old days of Zaire. So each time when you give a team or you challenge a team to improve of what you call his.
Well, again, I have to keep apologizing for Fon. His internet connections in Yaoundé not the best, and he will try to come back to give us his analysis of which teams will go through to the second round of the competition. And we're looking at the second teams, and was telling us about DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo.
So in the days of Zaire, before they had the shameful participation in 1974 World Cup, where they took a total of 14 goals in 3 matches, they used to be a force to reckon with on the African continent. For long now, they have not been. So I would just like saying that when typewriters were invented, it was good for human progress at the time. But so many years afterwards and so many generations afterwards, you don't have the computer. So I don't think the Democratic Republic of Congo feels very comfortable to always be referred to as those who prevailed at the time when not so many teams were participating in the African game. So I think that those teams, Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Democratic Republic of Congo, I think at least four out of the 6, will reach the second round of the tournament.
So it means that in the there may be from the third tier. We have Equatorial Guinea, Cape Verde, Guinea, Mauritania, South Africa, and Zambia. Would I be wrong to think that only South Africa and Zambia may be able to have the breakthrough from that third tier?
Yeah, I had to grade that analysis by you. I would give you 80% because I want to suggest that beyond South Africa and Zambia, there is also Mauritania, whose football has been evolving. Watch out for Mauritania. It's been described as a new force in African football. Watch out for Mauritania. Guinea used to be in years gone by, but they also have the opportunity now to improve on the performances of the past. Cape Verde, don't forget that Cape Verde prevented Cameroon from going to the African Cup of Nations finals. That was in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't cover that particular tournament, but I think that was that year, Cape Verde. So from that moment, when they could stop Cameroon from reaching the final rounds of the African Cup of Nations, it was easy for people to conclude, or for analysts to conclude, that football made in Cape Verde had come of age. So it can't easily be written off. But unfortunately, you're talking
Yeah, bear with us again because Fon is having.
It's in fact not like it's quite dicey. So Cape Verde is all. Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, Burkina Faso, Mali, Democratic Republic of Congo, and the 10
frozen again.
That team of easily going through, they will depend on just as many teams can go through. You can't go beyond a certain level. So the showing by those teams in the tournament, as far as I'm concerned, it's something to write home about.
And the last tier there means these ones need to be absolutely lucky. Guinea-Bissau, Mozambique, the Gambia. Angola is one to watch out for. I don't know about Namibia and Tanzania, but you are the expert.
I don't quite get you, Lambert. But I imagine that you're already talking about the the little guys, right? Talking about Guinea-Bissau, Mozambique, Gambia, Angola, Namibia, and Tanzania. But remember, I already alluded to the performance of the club sides of the country called Tanzania. Tanzania is featuring 2 clubs in the group stages of the African Clubs Cup competitions. Cameroon has none. So that alone should tell you that Tanzania football too is gradually coming of age, if it has not come of age as yet. So Tanzania is at least amongst those 5 teams, Guinea-Bissau, Mozambique, Gambia, Angola, Namibia, and Tanzania themselves. I think that's a worthy flag bearer amongst those 5 teams. And therefore, now to tell you therefore that although the field has been expanded to 24 teams, nobody should sit back and say that there are now too many teams contesting in the final phase of the African Cup of Nations, but therefore the quality of football is going to drop. No. We have new teams. There are inventions. We invent things in human life, in the human race every day. So in the game of football, we always try to give some allowance and let this surprise element be there to have its way. That a team that was ranked as just a participant prevailed at the end of the day as the winner of the tournament.
So when we did pronostics for the World Cup, you were able to. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Fon? Okay, that was another glitch there because of internet connections. Fon's connections in Yaoundé are not the best, but I hope he gets back. We have been doing an analysis of the draws for the African Nations Cup, and looking at it, the first tier teams, according to that first tier based on FIFA rankings, and like we said, those teams seem to be the ones that are going to make things happen. So I was just going to say, Fon, when we did the World Cup analysis, you were able to do some predictions as to who was going to go around and all the. So I know it's still early, but because we know we have not yet looked at the teams themselves, who is going to be because I'm sure coaches are going to be changed and all that. They still have close to 90 days. I think it's 94 days. And so, I mean, which team do you think is going to lift cup this time around?
Well, Lamet, I don't want our viewers to think that this whole thing is a matter of chance. No, it's not a matter of chance. It's more of scientific. When I made the projections for the World Cup, where I said Cameroon will lose the first match, draw the second, and win the third, I gave arguments to suggest.
Somehow we need to fix this connection issue with Fon in Yaoundé. If there's anybody who knows what to do to help us to be able to have a seamless program, this is a perennial problem we have had. Every time we have had Fon on, it's not easy to get connected, keeps getting disconnected. Please, if there's anybody who can help, we'll be willing to get
I'm still on.
You are.
So I was saying that when I made the projections that Cameroon would draw, that Cameroon will lose the first match, draw the second, and win the third, was based on the indices I had at the time. So I don't want our viewers to have the impression that this whole thing is just a game of chess or something, just guesswork. No, it wasn't that. It was based on what I knew at the time. Now, you're going to give me some time. Let's look at how the coaches summon the players that the coaches are going to summon for the camps. What frame of mind do the coaches have? What is the vision? What do they want their team to do in the African Cup of Nations? We'll look at that report card and look at what they've done during the test games. Then we can make very, very valid projections. And then I can assure you that when I make the projections, then they will not be far from the truth. In fact, I will come to at least 95% having it correct. Before I got 100% at the World Cup, I said something which only Franklin Sone retained. I said something that I later came back to it before they went for the tournament. But what I can tell you is that this tournament is going to produce some of the finest memories that we're going to have of the Africa Cup of Nations. Because of what the teams that are participating are taking. These teams that are taking part in the tournament this year have amongst them 13 titles that they've won. Now, you've not been able to assemble that kind of array of teams at any particular edition of the Africa Cup of Nations. And remember that each time when a team comes to a competition as a former champion, the tendency is always, in fact, the ambition is that they want to go back to where they were before. That is the stakes of the competition. And of course, the new names and players who come to challenge and try to improve on what has been happening before, the records of the various countries, they too have the opportunity, have their own stories to tell. You don't remember that the Africa Cup of Nations is also an opportunity for players to express themselves on world stage, so that they can get those big contracts and then go and make much money for themselves and for their families. So when they come for the competition, like what is going to happen in Cote d'Ivoire, it's going to be an opportunity. The best that the country has is going to be in attendance there. It's going to be on parade there. But now, if I look at the case of Cameroon, for example, if, for example, in place of selecting a certain player A, you decide to select player B because of your attachment to this or that player, I'm not saying that's what's happening. If you do things like that, then we can project from there that if other countries are doing the same kind of thing, these are the kinds of results that we're going to have. But if we can take the case of the match between Cameroon and Burundi, if the head coach could rise up to the challenge, rise up to the occasion, and do the kind of selection of players for the African Cup of Nations, like unified a lot of unanimity amongst fans, then you can expect that Cameroon could be at its best again at the African Cup of Nations. Not only Cameroon, there are going to be 23 other teams with the same kind of approach to the game. So therefore, if we decide to ask ourselves the question right now that which are the teams that could likely lead the tournament, the answer for now is going to be the one that would have demonstrated the real sense of mission, the one that would opt for those human resources in terms of players that should go fly the colors of the various countries in Abidjan and in the Ivory Coast.
So at this point, the president of CAF, Dr. Motsepe, made a comment that he thinks that African football has come of age, or is coming of age, and he thinks that in a not too distant future, an African team is going to win the World Cup. Now, you have covered, is it 12? Fon has covered at least 12 of these competitions, 12 African Nations Cup, and if I'm not mistaken, is 12 African Nations Cup and 5 World Cups. Am I right?
6 World Cups.
6 World Cups. So
Yeah.
my question to you is, you can talk about the progression of African football. Do you think that African football has really come of age? Do you see it as let me use your term, has it been an arithmetic progression or a geometric progression, and where are we currently with this?
Now, what I can tell you is that, regrettably enough, is that Africa would have won the World Cup already in 1990 with Cameroon. If they did not mismanage the dying minutes of the match between Cameroon and England, Cameroon would have won the World Cup in 1990. In 2002, in far away in the East, put it that way, when they went to South Korea and Japan, Cameroon had a team that could win the World Cup at the time. But things that have nothing to do with football came into camp and then obliterated a country's ambition, a country's opportunity to win the World Cup. So Africa long ago would have won the World Cup. I think Dr. Patrice Motsepe is actually saying that Africa has no argument not to have won the World Cup this far. That he's just hoping. But I think what he's telling Africans is that he's just hoping that you now have the rightful mentality that could take you out of slumber and remind you that the World Cup is not meant for others, not Africans. It's meant for Africa too. And so you should have been able to win this World Cup before now. So we just hope that you've now had the mentality that tells you that Africa too has a right to win the World Cup. So not in terms of, we're not talking about in terms of, if it had to be a matter of talent, then forget it. Africa would have done it long, long, long ago. We've had players on this continent. As far as I'm concerned, the best footballer that I know, as far as I'm concerned, is an African. Did I tell you?
I hope it's not a toe.
It is called Albert Roger Milla. I'm talking about the talent. Now, there is something tricky about Milla and Eto'o. Eto'o has the records that no other Cameroonian footballer has. But in terms of the talent, I'm talking about the talent. So I'm saying, therefore, that an African had been the most talented footballer ever before those who are not Africans. So what I'm saying is that if Patrice Motsepe is harping on this point, it's just like trying to give Africans a wake-up call. You have what it takes to win the World Cup. Why are you sleeping? Why are you snoring? Wake out of slumber and do what is required of you. I think that's what it means.
So we are hoping that we're going to see some classical things. And again, you came back from Douala today. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but how are you preparing for the forthcoming African Nations Cup?
Yeah, what is happening? I went to see some of my partners. We are going to do a 10-program series beginning the 12th of November to the 10th of January. The countdown to the African Cup of Nations. I've built a team that features such greats as Ade Divine, described as this generation's best sports writer in Cameroon. I also have Raymond Elume, the no-nonsense analyst on CRTV. He used to be there for one reason or another. I'm being told that he's being pushed out of the door for no reason at all. That's what I'm being told, for no reason at all. Nobody can actually say why. But that's not the point. That's not the business of Langom Show. There is also Francois Bala Mekongo, and there are some two ladies who are not only beautiful, but are very good reporters. One is an ordinary reporter, the other one is going to be an envoy. So we have that team together, including technicians, 12 of them. We're going to come up with some interesting programs. Actually, when I shared my thoughts on this program with them, they became more interested in in a project than myself, and they actually asked me to go to Douala. I'm going to finalize that matter and then come, let's begin work. And that's what I went to Douala for. And of course, since we are interested in what happens before the African Cup of Nations, I am sure that they will listen to me when I try to talk to them about the possibility of integrating the Lambom show during the African Cup of Nations, so that they can always have a daily analysis of what is happening in the various stadiums in Ivory Coast.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching and you are looking forward to, enjoying the forthcoming Total Energies African Cup of Nations, there is an avant-goal that's being prepared by a special team. Fon is putting that team together. These things, to produce a program like that, needs sponsors. If you think that you may not have to sponsor the entire thing, you may just want to advertise your thing for 5 minutes or 30 seconds. You have a business, please reach out to Fon. You'll be able to integrate that. We need more, a diverse cast, isn't it, to be able to enjoy these things. There's been a monopoly. Oh. CRTV had a monopoly at a certain point. That's why it's a state-sponsored TV. That's why we had those great programs, Fufu Food and Sports Vision and the rest. Some of us have been out of Cameroon for too long. We don't know what sports programs are there now. But with initiatives like this, we encourage as many people as possible to be able to, sponsor them. You want to take a slot and all that. But we are also promising that we are going to be able to do the same thing that we did during the World Cup, do some skits, do some... if you remember, Fon had Sports Vision on the Lambom show, 30 minutes production, based on Cameroon and the other teams were able to do something. We're going to continue to make sure that comes up. Fon, I don't know, you were looking as you had something else to add?
Well, I really have nothing else to add, but just that shortly after the World Cup, I had a number of people calling and asking me why did Lambom show not do a surgical analysis, a balance sheet of the World Cup. I said, man proposed bed machines and other things to dispose. So I said that we had the opportunity coming that we're going to do what they call the catching up, and we're just around the corner, and we're going to do that with the African Nations Cup before, during, and possibly after the tournament. We're going to be there for that. But you should also remember that between the World Cup and today, the Czechs diary also hit the stands, and so we have been like very busy, and we're going to keep on being busy, because once a journalist, always a journalist. Once a sports reporter, always a sports reporter.
So again, because you talked about it, I didn't want to talk about it, but it's important. A Czechs Diary will do the Lambom show. Will be hosting you next Saturday. That's not it's not the 14th, but Saturday the 21st. That is when we are going to do an official launch of the book on my show, and I've promised Fon I want to sell 100 copies. It's 20,000 in Cameroon, I think. 20,000. Am I right, Fon? Is it 20,000?
Yes, it's 20,000 francs. 20,000 francs CFA in Cameroon, $40 in the United States, and 30 euros that way. Right. Well, and the book is there, and when we went around for the launch, it was about 20,000 francs, and the credo was always the same. If you get a copy of a Czechs diary, 829 pages, with 40 of them in color, plus the content. Actually, I should have begun with the content. If you have a copy of that, if you take from page 1 to the very last page, and you think that 20,000 francs is too much, get to me and I'll give you back the balance. But if in all honesty, you think that 20,000 francs is not enough to give you a copy of that book, then have the Christian behavior of going to Orange Money or Momo and get it back to me. So far, Lambert, 4 people have read the Czechs diary from start to finish.
Wow.
One, a former colleague told me that if you did this thing in a serious environment, they will give you an honorary PhD degree in a university. I said, really? I said, okay. I said, we'll talk about this with Lambert. Lambert is an environment where they recognize such things. Maybe it's not fully recognized yet.
No, again, you already know the plan I have, because I think that one, all schools that have libraries should have a copy. And that is why one of the strategies I have for selling 100 copies of this book is to reach out to presidents of alumni associations in the US. If you don't like a copy, just buy one for your school, and Fon will make sure that it gets to the library. I know that I'm going to get copies for the major seminary in Bambui, where I attended the major seminary in Bambui. I'm going to get a copy for Sacred Heart College. I mean, I know that there are many Shetsons who want to read that. Bishop Rogan X students, you are a Bishop Rogan X student, so many of them should. I mean, I'm talking about those who are here, because those in Yaoundé. And
Lambert, you know what? Since you already, this is something like an appetizer of what comes on next Saturday.
right.
The book had to be launched in Yaoundé, and the holder had to host 150. About 110 attended. Douala holder to host about 250. 5 attended. Boya holder had to host 200. About 23 attended. Most of them journalists: Charlene Dicher, Johnny McBiban, Franklin Sonny Bayen, and others too. So the Cameroonians don't have the culture of reading. But those who say they are reporters reporting sports today for the Cameroonian sports public, you cannot cover university games, or especially a mountain race in Boya, without having a copy of that book. There are things in that book that I don't have elsewhere. And even the Secretary General of the Cameroon Athletics Federation confirmed. He looked at the book and said, no, this is what he said. Grand frère, tu as un sorcier. Saying that I'm so strong. So I didn't imagine that I could have produced such a thing. I said, but it took time for me to do this kind of a thing. Yeah.
So that will be our starting point. Then we'll think about because you need to look at sports programs in journalism schools for us to be able to get a good review in America and do a big one. I know you don't want to travel to the United States. You don't want to travel anywhere, because this is a book that should be launched in places like this for us to have you recognized. I mean, honorary degrees are things that are given to people who have done enough. 800 pages covering 12 African Cup of Nations and 6 World Cups. You can't beat that record. You know, I'll invite you.
You know what? Let me. The book is just by here. Let me just give you what Charlene wrote as the blurb of the book. This is what he wrote. You don't spend a third of a century covering sports, analyzing sports and researching sports, and accept to be outscored by retirement. You don't cover 6 FIFA World Cups, 12 Africa Cups of Nations, 25 editions of the Mount Cameroon race, 20 editions of the All University Games of Cameroon without being driven by the urge to document your experiences for posterity. Sports reporting and analysis and Fon Echekiye are at one with each other. This is reflected in the Czech's diary, signed Charlene Dicher.
You can't beat that. You can't beat that. I would like for us to, again, I think we'll dedicate a special edition on Saturday, October 21st, to the Czech's diary. The Lambom Show will be launching the Czech's diary on Saturday, the 21st. Please get your money ready. Once you get on there, his Momo number will be ready so that we can get 100 copies out. That is our dedication, and we hope to beat that. Thank you all. Any last word, Fon?
Well, and I'm grateful. You're such a nice guy. You do a lot of things for me, and some you do in the open like you're doing right now. Some you do behind the curtains. You're a nice guy. Thanks so much. I don't know what to say. I'm humbled, or I'm honored. One of the two. But with all humility. Thanks so very much. I look forward to the Saturday, 21st of October.
Thank you for always being available, and you, in spite of all the hiccups, you had to jump some hoops in order to get here today. And I'm grateful that we were one of the first to do an analysis. I think we'll assemble another team sometime to get into the weeds of what the competition holds. Thank you. And to the audience, thanks for watching. Come again on Saturday. I'm doing a deep dive into the English Premier League. Those of us who watch the English Premier League, who want to look at the team. Some of us are Manchester United fans. But I mean, sorry, before you go, your brother Onana, what is happening to him? The Grimbada he used in Inter Milan, he crossed over to what's going on?
Well, what are you saying? You said the Grimba he used?
Because
before I answer your question, I want you first of all to define for me what you mean by Grimba.
So for the audience is just
Lambert. Yeah. It is what usually happens in the world of sports. Big, popular, celebrated, legendary sportsmen and women have always had some moments in their life where almost everything goes on the wrong way. Just like, let me talk about a marital situation between a man and a woman, or man and a wife, or a woman and a husband. Imagine, or somebody with a spouse. You want to do things the right way. If you want to do the right things, but you do the right things the wrong way, you can't understand and give the wrong results. So in the case of Andre Onana, I think that what is happening to him is, well, it's not new to me because I've seen that several times before with other sports legends. That it comes to a point where you discover that everything you're trying to do, you're putting your very best, is going the wrong way. Now, fans should be made to look at it this way. If Onana concedes a goal because of poor positioning at goal, you take that against him. If he concedes a goal because he doesn't know that an aerial ball doesn't come into his zone there and he lets go onto the head of another attacker, if he doesn't do that, if he does well to stop all of that, it just happens at some point he doesn't have the required backing from his defenders and he concedes goals, they keep on losing. But as an individual who plays to help his team to victory, he's doing what is required of him. But it just so happens that sometimes it happens that way. It is something that we can call some low moments in his career. He's going to pick up. That one I'm very sure about. He's going to pick up. And I want to tell you that Lambert Onana, in spite of what has been going on at Manchester, was the guy who qualified Cameroon for this African Cup of Nations. His performance against Burundi was simply spectacular. It happened during that time. Don't tell me that it was because he came and played in Cameroon. No, be careful. He played in Cameroon with some defenders, maybe not as good as the defenders at Manchester, right? But he went the extra mile to do what he did and gave Cameroon the qualifications through that it goes to a score. I want to take you to the years 1990. Was it 1990? Yes. After the World Cup, Cameroon had to play an international friendly with England at the Wembley Stadium.
Yeah.
Now, amongst the headaches or amongst the puzzles that head coach Philippe Redon had to resolve was who had to be fielded as the first choice keeper. At that time, Kono was in poor shape. Joseph Antoine Bell was in better shape, right?
Yeah.
Kono was just coming out of what he had been going through for a very long time. But later on, he picked up again. And then before finally facing out. So you have those kinds of things happening. Just like Albert Roger Miller. I remember that in 1986, before the African Nations Cup, who had just come to the University of Yaoundé. We sat somewhere with people who claimed to be talking football and who claimed to master the A to Z of football. And everybody was saying that, vraiment, il faut que Roger Miller désormais joue au milieu du terrain. Ça ne vaut pas la peine là devant. They were saying that he had lost that is killer instinct as an attacker. That was the truth about it. So those athletes always have a moment where they go low and then they come up again. After that, Miller rose from the ashes of the poor shape to give Cameroon the performance he gave in the United States of America to set a record that would take light years to be broken, being the oldest person ever to play at the World Cup finals and score a goal. So what Andre Onana is doing, what he needs right now is what kind of thing you call preparative psychology. You need a psycho official, a psycho specialist
to boost.
So I hope that's the word. So who can take him? Psychologist, yeah, that's the word. Psychologist who can take him through these very, very stormy moments, right? That's what he needs right now. In terms of talent, his talent is still there. That innate talent as a goalkeeper. But it so happens that at some point in time in the life of an athlete, you have that dip in your performance, but it comes back again. That's it.
So because we have gone this 1 hour, and I like us to end by fun. Somebody is asking me here to ask you for that quote that you always give when you want to remember your mentor.
Which quote is that? Which one? That report of 1982?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what the person is asking for.
The person is begging me to say that don't close with that.
Okay, since the person has stayed awake right up to now, let me say, we are 3 hours away from what has been described as a decisive and important encounter. Decisive because a win for either team today will give them a right to leadership in the Four Nations Group 1 following yesterday's 1-1 tie between Italy and Peru. Decisive also because for Cameroon to make the goals this afternoon, the players must be in superlative form. Offer no scoring opportunities to the Poles, who have a remarkable flair to capitalize on defense error. And of course, adopt and sustain a very aggressive attacking power and spirit for full 90 minutes. Poland, 4 times World Cup finalists, will want to beat Cameroon, their second all-black World Cup opponents, as it did against Haiti in West Germany 8 years ago. But the question is, where do we draw the line between Cameroon and Haiti and between years 1974 and 1982? Before this afternoon's talk of war, this is how Frenchman Jean Vincent has drawn up the Cameroon national football team. Goalkeeper and captain Thomas Nkono. Defenders left to right Kaham Michel, Onana Elundu Eli, Njea Rene and Bom Ephraim. Halfback Kunde Emmanuel, Abega Theophile and Bida Arantes. Center forward Roger Miller and Gea Jacques. Before the 4:15 p.m. clash, and before he answered the question on whether or not Cameroon will make or mar, the British television sports journalist Jerry Harrison says, and I put on the records, the match between Cameroon and Poland will be tough and tight. Zakarinko in Spain for Radio Cameroon.
So keep your momo. The person has bought a copy for $50. So I'm going to send that to
you. Okay, I'll give it. The number is there are 2 of them.
Okay.
I use the orange one. 656 262 396.
Take that again. 656
656 262 396. But of course, you precede that with 00237, right? Yeah. Then next one is 00237, then 670 636 093. 00237 670 636 093. So the orange is 656 262 396 and the MTN is 670 636 093.
Good. Okay, got it.
And if he wants to have, in fact, since he's booking for a copy, well, if he's in the country, what's going to happen is that it's going to give me the name of the person and which travel agency the person want to have the book by, and within 24 hours the book will be there.
Okay,
that's how I go about it.
He says, okay, you are going to send it to any person of your choice, and he's going to get 2 copies instead of 1. So you'll get 1, really? And you donate 1 to anybody of your choice that you think will need a copy but could not afford it.
Really? There's my tribesman who came for the taxi driver who came for the book launch. I can give his name. He came there and told me that, you see, he spoke in a dialect and said, we taxi drivers don't have money. So I've come to support you with 5,000 francs. He gave, and I told him I will give you a copy of the book. Since then, he's not gotten to me. I'm still keeping his copy of the book, even though he gave 5,000 francs. And his name is Gilbert Ndikaka. He would eventually get to him. So I just want to tell our friend, whoever he is, that all of those things, many of those things, those reports like that, they're in this checks diary. In fact, actually, I went and collected about 126 reports of the about 5,000 reports I ever wrote in my life as a sports reporter at CRTV and put them in the book, and many other things I want to know. So, in fact, Agwabala did not describe the book. He didn't say it was a book. He said it was a depository of sports in Cameroon, and that if you care, say it's a sports encyclopedia. It's not really a book.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Fon. Thank you very much, and I'm grateful. Again, we'll link up and be able to prepare for our next program, which will be October 21st, the launch of a Czech Diary on the Lambom Show. But for those who just joined, you can go back and watch. We just rounded up our analysis and commentaries on the just ended groups that were. Yes.
What has happened that the lines have suddenly stabilized?
I don't know. I think it's midnight. I hear midnight in Cameroon. Everything comes back to normal. So I don't know what I
right now in Cameroon. Right now in Cameroon, and a locality called Etetak, to the outskirts of the city belt, it is 20 minutes past 11 p.m.
Okay, so
so I hope that I hope they got all what we said about the African, about the teams, the pairings of the teams. That the key thing about it is that we don't quite have what they call a group of death. We rather have matches of death. Ivory Coast versus Nigeria in Group A, Egypt versus Ghana in Group B, Senegal versus Cameroon in Group C, Algeria versus Tunisia versus South Africa in Group E, and then Morocco should be very careful about Democratic Republic of Congo, Zambia, and Tanzania. So we don't quite have that. Rather, I insisted that we have a group of vengeance, and that is Group C: Senegal, Cameroon, Guinea, Gambia. And it's somehow prophetic, Lambert, that Cameroon's next test match will be played in 4 days' time. Is going to be against Senegal in Lens. so you see things that happen repeatedly. I don't know that mistakes.
Well, they'll have an opportunity to test each other, and I hope that we'll look forward to that great game. Ivo, thank you. I know we are grateful. You are a great fan of the Lambom Show. We have not been on for a while. He says sorry for coming late, but go back and watch it. It's been great. We had some huge internet connection problems, but we successfully went through. So, Fon, again, thank you very much. And like Fon just said, he's putting together a program. They'll launch 10 editions from November 12th through January 10th. Be able to put in something, looking at the teams, how they're preparing for the competition and all that.
Yes, it's going to be a weekly. It will generally air on Sunday evenings with 2 broadcasts in the course of the week. And I'll tell you exactly on what channels.
Okay. So thank you, Fon. Go get a rest and let me know when you receive the Momo thing. He says he's working on it. So when you receive, let me know so that I can thank him again. Thank you all and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks so very much. You're welcome.